Happy holidays, Faculty Factory listeners, and we wish you well. On this week's Best of the Faculty Factory podcast, we're featuring clips and snippets from some of the best conversations we've had over the lifespan of this podcast with regards to leadership. This is part 2 of a 3-part series that started the week of American Thanksgiving, which was roughly a month ago. Today we'll hear from Doctors Jennifer Lee, Maria Oliva-Hemker, as well as we'll hear from Kathy Forbush. If you want to hear the full episode of these clips, go ahead and check the description of today's podcast. Now, first up, let's hear from Dr. Jennifer Lee.
And what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is what people can do if they're considering leadership in the future, especially if they don't know exactly how to get there. And so for most of my career, I became faculty in 2010. And for most of my career, people would say to me, well, Jenny, what's your 5 and 10-year plan? And I'd be like, my 5 and 10-year plan? I don't know what we're having for dinner tonight. I'm not sure how my husband and I are going to shuttle the kids around to all the sports and music events this weekend. And so it was too much for me. And I think it's perfectly fine for us to say, I'm going to have small little plans in my career. And the advice that I want to give is try to make those small little plans merge with something that you really care about. And I know it's so cliche, right? Merge your passion with your work, but it's true. And it's probably been 5 years ago now that I decided I really wanted to work on faculty development and gender equity. And it was something that I was passionate enough about that I kept working at it no matter how many obstacles got thrown up at me, how many barriers went up, how many problems there were. And I have an old mentor. His name is Ken Brady. He is a pediatric anesthesiologist. I think he's the cardiac anesthesia chief now at Lurie Children's Hospital. And he would say to me, Jenny, if you don't get up in the morning and think about it while you're brushing your teeth, you may not be passionate enough to really pursue this with all of the barriers that are going to come up in your career. And so I call it the teeth brushing test. And this pursuing faculty development passed the teeth brushing test. And people often say, well, did you have protected time to build your niche to work on this? And I will say no. In the beginning, I didn't have protected time. I was fortunate that I was doing brain research at the same time and I was doing clinical medicine, but this was something that I was so driven in that I felt like nothing was going to stop me. And so in all of the little extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes that we can find in our workday, I would chip away and work at it. And so if I could give advice to people who are trying to take their career in a direction that they feel really passionate about, I would say, for you, is it passing the teeth brushing test? Can you work on it in the little spaces in your day if you don't have protected time? And it's okay to squeeze it in those little spaces. If it's too much, don't do it. Let your mind relax, fit it into those spaces. And if you don't have a 5-year plan, it's okay, because if you can have something that you feel really driven to do, no matter how many walls get thrown up at you or if somebody insults your mission, if you know you're going to keep plowing along, I would say keep plowing along. So you had said, make your CV look like the job you may want one day. And that's the only sticky note I have on my computer. And I heard it a few months ago, but it's true. So you may not know what your dream leadership job will look like, and that's okay, because how can we possibly know? It's probably, look at ChatGPT, GPT-4, AI, all of the jobs that will exist in the next 5 to 10 years, I probably can't even imagine right now. But if I think about what really gets me excited, makes me jump out of bed in the morning, makes me say, I'm going to keep working on this no matter what works or what doesn't work or what barriers I may find, if you stack your CV with that, you never know when a door could open and a leadership opportunity could open up. So the dean's office position that I now have opened up in 2022. Is that right? 2021, in 2021. And no one could have told me that this is what you should be aiming for. I didn't know that the job would ever open, but the door swung open and there was an opportunity to apply. And if I hadn't spent the last 5 years trudging up the hill and finding those 5-minute, 10-minute in-between times to really work on gender equity and faculty development, I would never have been prepared to walk through that door and apply when the door became available. Yeah. And so I would say it's okay if you don't know your exact 5 to 10-year plan, but get the experience and the knowledge and the exposure in some area that you really, really love professionally. And then when the door does open, you'll be prepared to apply. Now you got to get the door to open, right? And you've got to find the door. And so that's where all the networking comes in. And so as you're finding a project that you really, really care about and a pathway that you really, really care about, let the world know how much you care. Get your name out there that you're working so hard on this and that you want to be part of these groups, you want to help build the niche. And then people may say, hey, did you know that there's a door over here that you may not have seen before? And then you can apply.
Now let's hear from Dr. Maria Oliva-Hemker.
I thought one of the aspects that I could bring to the table is to talk about transitions in your life and transitioning into a leadership position, because this is a time when things can be very kind of scary for somebody and challenging. And over my career, I've had some transitions into leadership positions at different points in time. And you always learn a little bit as you go along. You know, I think of myself first as a faculty member. I'm an academic clinician, and I've been here at Hopkins actually my entire career. I also trained at Hopkins as a pediatric gastroenterologist. So throughout that time, and still to this day, I'm involved in patient care, doing inpatient rounds, having ambulatory clinics, doing endoscopies, and teaching our students, our residents, and our fellows. And as all of our colleagues, we multitask. I'm also a clinical researcher, and I've been focusing on inflammatory bowel diseases. Since I've transitioned into a variety of leadership roles throughout my career, I thought I would have the opportunity to give your audience maybe some tips about what to think about. The first thing is starting with the fact that a leadership role doesn't necessarily mean that you are now being named to a new particular role, like a division director, department director, or another role in your institution. Taking on a leadership role can also mean that you are now becoming, for example, the chair of a task force or the chair of a committee in your professional society. So some of these leadership positions might be for a year in length, and others might be, you hope, will last a bit longer, 3 years, 5 years, or even longer. But the same type of thought processes an approach can be used for different types of leadership positions. Transitioning, into a role as a leader at any stage and in any capacity can be challenging and exciting. And it's a bit of a yin and a yang, because as a new leader, you need a vision and a plan, but you want to hit the ground running. But then at the same time, you also need to listen and develop new collaborations and relationships. So regardless of what group of people you will be leading or what your new role is going to be, again, there are certain tips that would be good to have, regardless of what type of role you're going to be assuming.
There's a certain level of frustration, I think, because we all want to do a great job. And, as you said, we want to make an impact and make a difference, and we want to do good things. And yet that urge to rush out of the starting gate is the good discernment tempers us to say, slow down a minute. Who else is at the table or in the room?
Yes.
What are the competing priorities? And that's always my one of my many bugaboos is failing or not seeing the whole picture. And I think with a lot of our leaders, we get frustrated thinking, how come they're not doing, isn't this so important? How come they're not doing that, without recognizing there's so many other priorities and ours isn't the most important.
Well, but one of the things that you said, Kim, is that the first thing I think a person should do as they're kind of coming into this role is they really have to take stock in terms of what's going on and learn. And I always kind of view it as, again, being a clinician, it's kind of similarly when you meet a new patient for the first time, you have to take that patient's history and exam, and you'll probably need some help from others that'll do some labs or imaging studies. And then you're going to come up with this differential diagnosis, right? Potential list of diagnoses, and that'll help you with the plan. Well, it's kind of the same thing, that you want to kind of take stock in the situation. You want to learn the culture and the people of your new environment. And this is where I think it's just so important to listen to others, because you need to understand whether it's your new team, the new committee, the people that are reporting to you, your new boss. You need to know who the influencers are and who are the stakeholders. And so I found that you just need to talk to people, or rather, I probably shouldn't say talk. I should say listen to people. I know that when I became vice dean, we were still in a heavier pandemic mode back then than we are now, but I made it a priority to try to meet people in person. Especially all the department directors, who were now going to be kind of a new group of colleagues that I didn't have previously. And so I wanted to meet them where they lived at work, so to speak, because it's important to go into somebody else's work home, see how they are, and just and chat with them. And I thought that was important for them to obviously get to know me, but also for me to hear what concerns they had, or what they hoped our office of faculty, would bring to them. So I thought that was, really important, just as important as it was clearly to meet with all of our team, everybody in the office of faculty, find out what folks are doing, what their anticipated goals were, because certainly when there's a leadership change, it can be a scary time for people. The people that now are seeing a new leader in terms of, so what's this person all about? What changes are they going to make? We as humans don't necessarily love change all the time. And so I think it's really in those first times after you step into a new role, it's so important to begin relationship building and developing collaborations with others.
And to wrap up this week's episode, it's time to hear from Kathy Forbush.
Competencies are such a great way of thinking about and getting organizations aligned around what are the behaviors we most value and we want to see in our highest performers. And development, I think one of the things that I want to say about development here is I oversee learning, which is a lot of the kind of programmatic curricular learning. And what I'm really hoping in this next iteration is that we can more meaningfully talk about the kinds of development that doesn't happen in a classroom or watching a LinkedIn learning course, but it's through the work that we do. So whether it's working on projects or serving on a committee or being part of a professional organization or volunteering to be in a governance role or serving on a search committee, all those kinds of work kind of things, but having people more intentionally identify like, that activity is developing my skills in X, my competency in Y. And so we will definitely map it to curriculum and we'll make suggestions based on the offerings we have at Hopkins, but we're also going to push the envelope a little bit and encourage people to think about how to build their skills outside of a classroom or curricular setting.
Kathy, that is genius. Now, I have never thought about what you just said in terms of development and learning.
This is true of both employees and managers. So the managers who are always like, I don't know how to help so-and-so get better at blah, blah, blah. And I often say to managers, well, have you ever thought about like giving them like being intentional and saying, I am giving you this assignment because I want you to develop this skill. And we're going to talk about it in our one-on-ones. Same thing with faculty development is I would encourage faculty to be judicious in the stuff they sign up for. We talk a little bit about, particularly in the women's leadership program, around overextending and saying yes to too many things. And Barbara Fivish would always say, like, only pick the stuff that's going to help you. So to build on this idea, when you're thinking about serving on a committee, whether internally in your institution or for your professional organization, ask yourself before you say yes, what skill do I have the opportunity to develop? What experience can I possibly have? And then when you're writing your annual self-assessment for your supervisor, and this is also true of staff, not just faculty,
Right.
reflect on, I got the opportunity to build this skill or work or observe. So maybe I was on the search committee, I wasn't the search chair, but I learned from observing so-and-so how to manage like multiple stakeholders in a room who've got a lot of strong opinions. And I observed so-and-so. And so I'm thinking the next time, or by the end of the search, I was asserting myself more in the way that I saw so-and-so. But what you're doing is you're intentionally reflecting on not the classes you go to, but the experiences you have and how that's building your skills. And then when you're looking for opportunities to develop, and again, I'm a big believer in strengths. I like come from a position of strength. Like I feel like you can overdo strengths, but I know enough about finance and accounting to be dangerous. I have an MBA. That's not my core competency. I know enough to when to call an expert. But there are other things around the way I work, the way I lead that I can always get better at. And so I focus on that, but not the stuff that I'm like here. I'm like, well, I'm visually, I'm like, I'm in the cellar. Like I'm never going to go from being a C to an A in finance. I probably could get from a B to a B plus.
Right.
But so that's improvement. So, but it's like, where do I put my energy? But the whole thing to take away from this, and I'm hoping your listeners will take away from this, is be more intentional about what you do outside your core job and ask yourself, is this setting me on the trajectory of my professional development that I want to have?
Hi, Faculty Factory podcast listeners. I'm Kim Skorupski. I want to share a great opportunity with you. We've created a faculty leadership collaborative of faculty affairs and faculty development leaders from around the country, and we're offering a leadership boot camp in January. This one is for early career faculty members. That is, faculty members at the instructor or assistant professor rank for about less than 5 years. The boot camp will be 3 hours a day for 3 consecutive days. So specifically, it'll be January 14th to 16th. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 2 to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. And the registration fee is only $299. The boot camp provides overviews of key leadership competency areas developed and delivered by faculty members in academic health for early career faculty members in academic health. So with 9 contact hours, you'll learn about leadership principles that apply to yourself, in relation with others, and in complex organizations like ours. So this opportunity is open to early career faculty members in academic health institutions around the world. So please share with your friends. Let me tell you what the topics include. Overview of leadership competencies, self-knowledge and finding your voice, communicating for influence, difficult conversations and conflict management, organizational savvy, negotiating resources for yourself, promotion and career development, developing healthy academic habits, mentorship. This is on being a good mentee as well as being an effective mentor, resilience and work-life integration. And we also have a panel presentation that closes off the 3-day session of 3 recently promoted associate professors in different pathways in different institutions. So you'll get to hear from them about lessons learned and hints they'd have for you to how to grow your career and get promoted. So again, it's 3 days, January 14 to 16, 2 to 5 Central Standard Time. It's only $299. To register, go to the facultyfactory.org website. It'll be on this podcast description as well as on the website. And I want to also run through the names of who our presenters are this year. Dr. Karma Fouché from the University of Illinois in Chicago, Dr. Rachel Levine, Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Dr. Hannah Lundberg at Rush University Medical Center, Dr. Susan Matulavicius from the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center, Dr. Elza Milona from Methodist University Cape Fear Valley Health School of Medicine, Dr. Bob Tillman at Baylor College of Medicine, and Dr. Valerie Williams from the University of Oklahoma. So we have a broad panel of experts. We, my colleagues and I, Dr. Susan Chubinskaya and Nutan Vaidya, are so happy to bring this faculty leadership collaborative. We're all going to be working together around the country to provide more boot camps, small, condensed, efficient Zoom platform to do some high-level overviews. We'll be doing a mid-career in April. So we hope you sign up and share this opportunity with your friends. Talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.